Legacy.
Planning for these disasters will make sure we're safe, and is the best way to protect that legacy.
Protect your legacy. Visit ready.gov/plan for the tools and tips you need to start your emergency preparedness plan today. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
The Nebraska legislature will soon meet in special session and may consider a vote to raise consumer prices by imposing a sales tax on advertising. Nebraska's small businesses would be hit hardest, forcing them to raise prices, meaning we'd all pay more for the things we need. Contact your state senator and tell them no ad tax. Visit noadtaxnebraska.com to find your senator's contact information. That's noadtaxnebraska.com. A message from the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
When it comes to making plans, you are the best. What about those round trips, which are perfect on your way there and perfect on your way back? Or those meetings with friends, surprise parties, camps, birthdays. The same way you plan for the important moments, start planning to protect you and your loved ones from a natural disaster. Sign up for local weather and emergency alerts. Prepare an emergency kit and make a family communications plan. Get started at ready.gov/plan.
Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
On the Block with Strick and Austin.
If it was the Big Ten and the SEC and the Big 12 and the ACC's idea to kick back to grow the game at lower levels, we wouldn't have these conversations. Right. But because the NCAA is asking them to do that, it feels like they're getting their wallet stolen, money taken out of it, and it's not their idea, so they're against it.
Yeah. Weekdays from 2 to 4 on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
As an 18-year-old, I let my mistakes kind of take over my life. I was 0.5 credits away from completing high school, and I didn't do it.
10 years later, at age 28, Jackie finished her high school diploma.
When I found out that I was pregnant, I know that I had to do something for myself if I wanted to make her a better person and provide a better life for her. My family never stopped pushing for me to be better because they knew what I could become and who I could become as a person. My support team is amazing. The educational director, my sister, and even my 7-year-old daughter has just been more than the support that I could ask for. I've been given an opportunity, and I'm just thankful for it.
No one gets a diploma alone. If you're thinking of finishing your high school diploma, you have help. Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org. That's finishyourdiploma.org. Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
Coming at you live from the heart of Lincoln, America. This is the Don't Punt Hour with former Nebraska receiver.
Throwing over the middle, completes the pass. He's got speed to the end zone. Touchdown! 45 yards.
And return specialist.
This time he beats the kicker in one more.
DeMornay Pierson-El.
Not only does the sideline have confidence in Pierson-El, but Pierson-El has confidence in Pierson-El.
On 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
All right, welcome into the Don't Punt Hour back here at the 1040 Ticket Studio. Harrison Arns on the ones and twos. As always, come 6 o'clock for Ticket Weeknights. If you guys want to join in, you can use the streams, Facebook, YouTube, and we are back on X officially. We've got our account premium, so we're back on there streaming. You can chime in through there. And, of course, Allo Channel 961. Starter Human Text line still open as well. 402-464-5685. Like I said, feel free to use that throughout the show. We're going to be diving in to some global basketball, as well as, if we have time for it, college football, and then the Chiefs dynasty. With that being said, though, let's go ahead and bring him in. We got DeMornay Pierson-El on the Allo VIP line, where they understand the importance of exceptional service with a local heart. DeMornay, how's it going on this Monday?
Good. It's not too bad for a Monday.
Not too bad at all. And I think I got to start with the question, are you worried yet? Am I there convincing you with USA basketball that this thing's going to be a lot more closely contested than what people may have been thinking with this quote-unquote third dream team? We had the dream team, the redeem team, and this is another variation of it. Are you worried yet?
I wouldn't say worried. I have concerns, but I mean, it's still early, and like I said, people are still going to continue to get the USA's best shot or whatnot. So I think you just kind of got to weather the storm for right now and let things be.
South Sudan, though, I mean, that's a team that probably nobody had circled as a team that is going to have the potential of pushing the U.S. Obviously, USA scrapes through that one. Captain America, LeBron James, the man himself, he really finishes out. And it's crazy at his age, at 40, he's still the guy that looks by far and above like the best player out there for Team USA. They win that one 101-100. Obviously, you look at South Sudan, 3-point shooting's what did a lot of the legwork for them. They were a hot 42% from three-point land, 14 for 33. They took a lot of them on top of it. But South Sudan pulling that type of performance, and I understand they hit a lot of three balls. At the same time, they're getting a lot of open threes. That's going to be what a lot of these other teams imagine are going to do against U.S. Try to get open looks at the three. That's kind of that European-style ball. What'd you see with South Sudan? And that game in particular, is that just a fluke, or do you see something that is actually problematic with how USA basketball is constructed, or even how Steve Kerr's coaching them?
I wouldn't say necessarily problematic. Again, they have to, like I said, people are going to give the U.S. their best shot. I mean, so of course they were hot that day. People live and die by the three, especially, over with the European ball or whatnot. I think some changes, they had a game plan. They're going to make some changes and adapt to kind of what things are and to kind of eliminate that, hopefully. I wouldn't say I was concerned necessarily by it. Like I just said, I mean, everybody wants to play their best and give the U.S. their best shot. So I'm not crediting it, to so much of what the other team was necessarily doing. Is just, they're playing their hearts out against the U.S. on a big stage.
They're playing their hearts out. And I'll be honest, when you watch that game, it just looks like really good, clean basketball from South Sudan. And yes, they're giving their best shot, but USA, we're playing some serious basketball. I have yet to see one of these exhibition games where I think the guys really are trying. I think maybe you're right. It's just taking time for it all to get functional, to build up that team chemistry. But what is concerning is I'm not seeing necessarily a lack of effort out there. It's just these other teams are catching up in a big way. And the 3-point ball that you mentioned before, that's obviously going to swing games. Then we go on to Germany, which we had today. USA just barely scrapes that one as well. I believe only winning by 6, 92 to 86. So they pull away by 6 points in that one. And once again, it's LeBron James. He goes 8 for 11, 2 for 2 from the 3-point line. It was 50% on the free throws, but wasn't in a clutch situation. So now too much of a foul there. But LeBron James, he has back-to-back clutch plays to kind of give the USA that 6-point cushion. Otherwise, that's another game where the USA could have possibly dropped. And the thing about Germany is they haven't beaten anybody yet. So that would be their first win versus the USA. Now they've been in some tightly contested games, but I think it's starting to illustrate that this is going to be a very lock-even basketball for 2024 Paris Olympics. USA is still going to be above everyone else, but I don't think it's by a very big margin. How big is that margin to you, DeMarre Pierson-El, that you think the USA has, if at all?
I give them a better margin. Like I said, I mean, they're still ironing out things. I think the longer, the team plays together and kind of gets to figure itself out, and kind of Steve Kerr understands exactly, what he has or how to kind of put the best matchups, the best matchups together and whatnot, I think you'll start to see the dominance of what we're hoping for and whatnot. Like it's still kind of early on. People are still, piecing things together and whatnot. So I wouldn't say that margin is close or less right now. It's just, I'm giving them, a grace period to kind of, all right, figure it out and turn it on. So I'm not too worried about it. I think they still will be dominant, and I still think they will be clutch. But like I said, I mean, when you're playing the U.S., the teams that are playing the U.S., they're going to be built up on maybe a little bit more adrenaline, or maybe, something more to prove necessarily than just, playing on a national team. Like I said, that could be an audition for a team later on down the line. So I think these other teams are just playing for a lot more than what the U.S. kind of sees or how things is right now. But I'm not too bent on it. I think they will push the margin once they kind of get things figured out exactly with, I don't want to say hierarchy within the team, but just exactly, how things are going to flow or how people's parts are going to play an effect with things.
Yeah, and I do see a motivated U.S. team. This is the thing which gives me hope. My whole thing is I really do just think the rest of the world's caught up in terms of they don't necessarily need the best talent anymore. If you have good coaching and understand the game and how to get spacing, you get a South Sudan matchup where they're in the right spots, they're hitting their shots, and it's just a matter of high basketball IQ and getting open. And of course, 40% plus as a team from the 3-point line is going to give you a shot in just about any game. But let's talk about that hierarchy. LeBron James at 40 is clearly leading this team. Are you surprised at all? LeBron James, I almost want to take the position of an apologist right now because he's just been incredibly impressive. It's clear by far that he is the guy that's kind of leading Team USA. They would maybe have a couple losses already if it wasn't for LeBron James and his clutch play towards the end of some of these. LeBron James at age 40, surprised at all that he's just continuing to dominate and lead this team?
No, not at all. I mean, LeBron is LeBron. He's greatness, and he's done what he's done for a long period of time for a reason. So, I mean, if this is just, another added layer, that you can give him, a gold star or whatnot. Not surprised by it. But, I mean, I do at some point in time, expect Steph to step up and hit certain shots, or KD to step up and hit certain shots. Just with them being more so, I would say, of a better three-point shooter if it's contested, stand alone, open, or whatever it is. But I mean, LeBron is your bail guy, so he's going to be featured regardless of whether he wanted to or not. Like, I mean, we've seen him go to other teams with superstars and dictate to certain things. So, am I not surprised that he's doing that on this level? No, I'm not.
Yeah, he's been incredible, and only 18 minutes of play versus Germany. So there is still the factor that these starters, they're playing real basketball, but they're not playing what Steve Kerr is going to have for once the 2024 Paris Olympics actually start. It is going to be certainly some guys are going to be losing some minutes or even just playing time altogether. Let's talk about Joel Embiid. He's just not been playing very well throughout this, given his exhibition. Give him some time to click. Tyrese Halliburton's another guy. I think you actually try to give him more minutes just for the sake of ball movement. But Joel Embiid, I'm not sure about. Where does he sit in this roster? To me, clearly Anthony Davis is your starter over him. But how do you feel about Joel Embiid and possibly taking away minutes from him as we start getting to the point where we need to finalize this roster? Starts Wednesday. The official ceremony isn't until Friday. But of course, with basketball and a few other events, because it's so long, they started a couple days early. So it will officially start on Wednesday, the actual official torch lighting on Friday, but they got to figure this out. So Joel Embiid, what do you see with him in terms of his kind of fit on this roster? Do you maybe start shaving some minutes away, and you think this is kind of AD, try to get him close to 30 minutes a game if you can?
I'm not too sure about that. That might be one of those things where you might kind of try and poke the bear and kind of piss him off. And hopefully, it gives you another step. I don't think he's necessarily really playing to what we've seen him, and I'm not saying that he's not taking it serious. But again, I mean, long season. He's battled injuries this season and whatnot. I mean, he's coming off an MVP last season. So I'm not necessarily down him. I don't think people are down him. I don't think he has really turned it on. Like I said, roles still have to be delegated on what is and what not. So he might not be early on as much of a starter in the first group, but that next five coming in to create spark or whatnot, or depending on what the matchup is, I think you'll see stuff. But I think he's definitely a person that, I'm not feeling it today. He might not turn it on. He has layers to his game. So whenever I think the bullets are live, I think he would definitely he'll be somebody that you're glad he's on your team. He's a handful that you don't have to deal with or accommodate. So I think he's just not turning it on right now. And he's a superstar. He's an MVP. He's an all-star. He might be a bit of a diva with certain things, but I wouldn't count him out. As of right now, because we've seen what he can do, in the NBA and the level that he can play at or whatnot. So it's only a matter of how they're figuring out that what piece of the puzzle, or him working with LeBron or fitting around LeBron, or, if LeBron's off the floor and kind of letting him take things over and dominate and do his thing to where you can get the best and see what's a better situation for the team.
Yeah, I think he's certainly going to have his role. I'm with you. I think it's going to be a lesson, though. I think Anthony Davis, to me, is pretty clearly the better of the two, especially in this style of basketball. Joel Embiid, he's not putting out games that make you think, why is he even out there? It's just when AD subs in for him and you have AD at the 5 as opposed to Joel Embiid, especially when you get Bam Adebayo at the 4 and AD at the 5, that right there just looks like a terror matchup. If those guys ever get in talks about wanting to be a team in the future in the NBA, I think that might be one of the few duos where you can have a center and power forward lead it. But those two together look just incredible. Joel Embiid's fit. It's not that, like I said, he's playing poorly, but Anthony Davis just does more with less minutes and is more consistent defensively.
He's playing slower.
Yes.
AD and Bam, they're playing up tempo and kind of pushing the tempo of things. And with LeBron can be that way too if he wants to slow things down and kind of run things around him. But the thing about that is, like, LeBron can turn it on and turn it off.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think Joel just kind of has one mode, and it's kind of slowly kind of cooking you. It's not necessarily, I don't want to say as aggressive or as fast, but it takes some time to kind of let him get his or let him work and whatnot. Versus with these other guys, it's more guard-like or, guard pace to where, you can apply pressure and everybody can just run.
Yeah, and that makes total sense because Joel Embiid, half-court set makes a lot of sense in the world, but also that ISO ball is what gets him in trouble. We have to keep talking about it, and I know it's annoying to hear, but the European-style ball basketball is very much so different than what we have here in the U.S. So when you have a guy like Joel Embiid who likes to kind of beat the air out on his post moves where it's inside and he's kind of back to the basket and takes a little bit to do some damage, it really stagnates that offense. As opposed to AD, he's also got a little bit of perimeter shot to him. He can stretch out, move, cut, and slash. And then defensively, AD is just a lot quicker at closing those attacks at the rim, as opposed to Embiid, who's a little bit slower. Injuries to adding up on him. Who knows how healthy he's totally feeling. But he's just a step slower. So I think we're certainly going to see AD take over a lot of those minutes once we actually get to Wednesday. One more guy I want to talk about, and then we're going to talk about some WNBA, because WNBA All-Star team did happen to beat the USA team heading over to 2024 Paris Olympics. But one more guy, Tyrese Halliburton. Turnovers have been a problem. Exhibition games, they're still getting used to each other. That's a fair excuse, certainly. But Steve Kerr, I think he would do himself a big favor if he really, when we get to Wednesday, try to find ways to implement Tyrese Halliburton. He's the guy that's going to be selfless and move the ball around. And we talked about that style. Tyrese Halliburton, the run and gun, quick passes, motion offense, he kind of fits that perfectly. Thoughts about giving Tyrese Halliburton some more time out there on the court? Because I think he's one of the selfless guys you can really utilize.
I think his role will be better at like the 2 or 3, just because he's not. I wouldn't say he's a shooter, but he's more effective, at going to the basket. So not necessarily being at the 1. I think would be better for the team necessarily. Like, you can put, Ant at the 1. I would say Ant is probably a better shooter than Tyler. Ant can bring the ball up and you can kind of get things, pick and roll, or, those type of things. Putting him in a better situation and getting the ball kind of out of his hand. I don't think he's naturally, I wouldn't say naturally comfortable at it. Can he do it? Yes, but is that necessarily what he thrives at or what he's best at? No, I don't think so. I think necessarily getting the ball on the wing or out in transition and having him, attack things or whatnot, or he's a very active player because he has to be. He's not, a sharpshooter. He's not, the ISO person or whatever, but he's good at getting his shoulder, to the basket and finding himself at the basket, whether if it's scoring, whether if it's rebounding or whatnot. So I think that will help out the team a lot, and that will kind of solve, that turnover with him bringing the ball up and whatnot. You got 3 or 4 other guys that will probably be better at that than him, that you were more comfortable with putting him in that position putting them in that position than having, Tyler doing that. Not to say that he can't do it. But again, this is a bigger stage. This is a different level from, the U18 or U19 league and everything like that. So I think it's a bit of adjustment for, some of these younger guys and kind of, putting them in a better situation to something they're more comfortable with until, the confidence kind of kicks in or they understand how things flow better. So I think that's one thing that Steve will probably focus on or move towards coming up soon, hopefully.
Yeah, there's one guy that I think, as we're trying to figure this roster out, because Wednesday, obviously, they're going to start playing here. Devin Booker has been disappointing for me, especially with Kevin Durant being out. I was like, okay, Devin Booker, this is kind of your time to really show something. He's just not been shooting the ball well. That's obviously going to take away from his game. And on top of that, the ball movement with him has been less than ideal. I think that's the guy you swap Tyrese Halliburton's minutes with. You still use Devin Booker. I think he's going to be great if you can get him hot off the bench. I think you're low on Halliburton. I think Halliburton is what this team needs.
I think you tripping.
Go watch Devin Booker. I don't know. I don't know about that.
Shoot. Just because he's having a low performance or something's not clicking right now doesn't necessarily mean, you taking away from minutes from him right now. We understand what he is. He's a certified bucket, especially with the style over there and everything like that. I would probably say he's one of the better options to kind of combat that. He might just be having an off time right now, or he might be. I feel like Devin is a rhythm person. Once he kind of gets things going and whatnot, the better he goes. Especially with how things have been with just, I would say, not enough minutes probably might dictate, what things are, or certain things that, Steve might be having him doing right now just because to throw things off from what he wants to do in, the Olympics and everything like that is just right now. But I don't think that's a person that you take necessarily minutes away from because we've seen what he can do. We've seen how he can score and whatnot. And just the amount of pressure that the USA is going to get with, people scoring, whether that's inside, outside, I think Book is one of your best optional scorers, regardless of where he's at on the field. He can shoot the 3, he can shoot the 2, he can get to the bucket, he can pass and whatnot. And I don't think you kind of want that off of the floor right now, unless he's just playing absolutely terrible. He's not playing up to standards right now, but also right now things aren't completely live. So I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt.
I'm not. Okay, I get where you're going with. I just think you got enough offense right there, especially when KD comes back. He's still a guy that I want minutes out of him, but I think it's just going to be better off in timely moments when you need some, like you said, he's definitely a bucket. And I feel like if you give him the keys, and if you're putting him in there for the pure fact that you want some offense, I think he'd do a lot better under that type of situation. Trying to be in this new fit where he gets to take his shots kind of in that hierarchy. Again, it's not a real thing, but when you put all those superstars together, there is a figuring it out period. He just hasn't quite figured it out yet. And I don't know if it's going to happen by Wednesday. At least with Halliburton, he's selfless. That's not really, he's going to be looking to get guys open in that fast break style. I think he'd be great there, help with turnovers and get some quick offense because they're still part of USA's fast break game. I think they can add another layer, and it's don't turn the ball over, 1, and 2, you can get some better ball movement, and I think they'd even be more efficient. Right now, they're just efficient at it because they're so damn athletic. Compared to everybody there, they just have freak athletes. So if you have somebody near the rim, half the time it doesn't matter. If it's a 2-on-1 situation, they're going to dunk it. But there's still times where they're a pass away from looks like a quick, fast break that they're just not seeing.
I got a question. Whose basketball IQ are you taking more? Are you taking Book's IQ more, or are you taking Tyler's IQ more?
I'm going to take Halliburton. Book's a bucket. If I'm going pure offense, give me Book. Tyrese Halliburton, look at what he does on the court, though. It's a style of play. That's what he's built his legacy off of with the Indiana Pacers. And even at the Kings, he kind of showed that. And that's why, it's a tough decision between De'Aaron Fox and Halliburton. But now he's with the Pacers, and he brought that team to the Eastern Conference Finals. What did Devin Booker do with the Suns?
Hey, I mean, you said the Book just went to the finals not too long ago. Secondly, Tyler, I mean, half the East was crippled with injuries, so I mean, his path to the finals was a lot easier than other people. So I'm still taking Book. Nothing against Tyler or whatnot, but can Book make the extra pass and everything like that? Yes. Who's more of a threat with the ball in his hands? Me personally, I think Book. So regardless of what you want to do, not to say that Tyler's not a threat or anything like that, but I've just seen more consistently what Book can do and whatnot, regardless of, I mean, he was there with Chris Paul, so you're telling me after 2 years of that's just gone away? No.
I'm just saying, when Chris Paul left, that team wasn't great anymore. So maybe it was more about the point guard than it was about the shooting guard.
Book had to step up necessarily in ways that he didn't have to do with Chris was there. So he's taking on a lot more. The offense is flowing a lot more through him and whatnot. And
they gave him Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal. He doesn't. What offensive hardship?
They're all shooters. They're all looking to do the same thing.
Okay, that makes my point, right? That was pretty bad when you had a bunch of shooters. That's all. The thing with Haliburton, he is more dangerous with the ball on this roster because of his passing ability. When you have superstars 1 through 5, the passer, when you have.
All right, so are you saying D-Book can't pass?
He can, but I'm going to take Haliburton.
Okay, well, that's your opinion.
That's where we'll have to disagree.
All right. Exactly. That's your opinion. I'm good. I'm taking Book.
All right. Before we wrap up, and we'll have to save the WNBA maybe for later, but Steve Kerr, do you think he's done a good job so far? Do you like the fact that Steve Kerr is going to be the coach for this thing? Or do you think after seeing some of the exhibition, again, it's pretty early, but do you think this was the right move?
I'm kind of in the middle. I'm not so much as too much impressed, but I'm also not like too much disappointed. I'm kind of like, hopefully, this thing gets figured out. I mean, but he's a Hall of Fame coach. He played on all levels. He has multiple rings, so I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt. I'm just in the middle right now. Like I feel like I need to see more, or I need to see when things are live and the pressure's on, and kind of see exactly what is it going to be like. Because like I said, I don't think the U.S. has put their best foot forward. I think they kind of showed and flashed it, and it's like, all right, let me make sure my guys are stressed or warm. Let me make sure they get their feet wet, but we need y'all for the actual dance, not the practices right now.
Yeah, and that's totally fair. I'm neutral with him right now as well. It's hard for me to pin the turnovers on him. That's kind of where I'm at. It's a team that's got thrown together. You look at all these other national teams; they have been playing together a lot longer. So there's some things in there that, maybe are questionable, but as far as time management, substitutions, hard to argue in this case as you're just trying to get a feel for everything. But I haven't been impressed either. So it's a wait and see with Steve Kerr, but I'm totally not saying he was the wrong guy. But the turnover is certainly an issue, and it's something he's going to have to fix if they do want to go win the gold medal, because Germany, defending champs right now after the FIBA Cup. So don't go anywhere. We'll keep it rolling. Don't Punt Hour. DeMornay Pierson-El on the Allo VIP line should be streaming us next. We'll talk to you guys on the other side.
It's nearly here, and your long wait for year 2 of Matt Rule is almost over. Gear up for the season with 93.7 The Ticket's coverage of Big Ten Media Days from July 23rd to the 25th, live from Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis. Jay Foreman, Amon Green, Adam Carricker, Chancellor Brewington, Derek Pearson, Steve Sipple, Jake Sorensen, and Nick Sainer will be in Indy for our shows Tuesday through Thursday. Getting the latest news from Nebraska and everyone else around the conference. Coverage of Big Ten Media Days is brought to you by 1890 Nebraska, Stevens and Smith Construction, The Complex, Warhorse Casino, and Riddles Jewelry.
Mario fue pintor más de 30 años. Cuando me dijo que se le estaban olvidando las cosas, fue difícil. Un día me dijeron que pintara el marco del lado por dentro y pinté el lado de afuera.
Yo le diría a la gente que le diga a su familia lo que está pasando con él.
Si algo se nota diferente, podría ser Alzheimer. Es momento de hablarlo. Visita alz.org/nuestras historias para saber más. Un mensaje de The Alzheimer's Association y The Ad Council.
The Nebraska legislature will soon meet in special session and may consider a vote to raise consumer prices by imposing a sales tax on advertising. Nebraska's small businesses would be hit hardest, forcing them to raise prices, meaning we'd all pay more for the things we need. Contact your state senator and tell them no ad tax. Visit noadtaxnebraska.com to find your senator's contact information. That's noadtaxnebraska.com. A message from the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
Whether you like fishing together or fishing to get away, for the thrill of reeling in a big one, or just going out to have a good time, on the banks of your local pond, at a bend in a river, or on one of our many lakes and reservoirs, you'll always find the perfect place to cast a line. Here, beneath Nebraska skies. Start planning your next fishing adventure today at letsfishnebraska.com. Sponsored by Nebraska Game and Parks, aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
Your child was embarrassed when you arrived at their basketball game. 75% of parents or guardians report current alcohol use. Drinking alcohol can cause harm to children and loved ones. By drinking less, your child will be excited to see you at their basketball game. If you or a loved one is looking for help, find a treatment facility near you at findtreatment.gov. For immediate support, call, text, or chat 988.
Brought to you by Nebraska DHHS in partnership with SAMHSA.
Victor deployed for the first time to Afghanistan in 2003. At 4 a.m, my phone rang. They said, "I regret to inform you that your husband was wounded in action." Victor sustained a moderate traumatic brain injury. I was doing school full-time, and I was also then caring for Victor. One of the most important elements of caregiving is taking care of yourself. I just didn't want to forget that I also had goals and that I also had a life. What I did is I challenged Victor to meet me halfway. There are almost 6 million military and veteran caregivers across the nation. We have our own journey, and we can fulfill that journey at the same time that we are helping our loved one.
Visit aarp.org/caregiving for a free military veterans guide to navigate your caregiving journey and better care for your loved one and yourself. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Are you a veteran looking for a new companion animal? A dog, a cat, or maybe something else? The Nebraska Department of Veterans Affairs Vets Get Pets program can cover up to $350 of your pet adoption fees. Visit veterans.nebraska.gov/vetsgetpets to learn more about program requirements and how to apply. Want to help support the program? Get your Vets Get Pets specialty license plates from the Nebraska DMV. Sponsored by the Nebraska Department of Veterans Affairs. Aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
This is area race announcer James Rowland. Join me and Bree Fansteel every Sunday night from 7 to 8 on 93.7 The Ticket for the Finish Line, where we cover all things motorsports from local racing to racing around the world. Every Sunday night from 7 to 8 on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Football season is nearly here, and your long wait for year 2 of Matt Rule is almost over. Gear up for the season with 93.7 The Ticket's coverage of Big Ten Media Days from July 23rd to the 25th, live from Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis. Jay Foreman, Amon Green, Adam Carricker, Chancellor Brewington, Derek Pierson, Steve Sipple, Jake Sorensen, and Nick Sainer will be in Indy for our shows Tuesday through Thursday. Getting the latest news from Nebraska and everyone else around the conference. Coverage of Big Ten Media Days is brought to you by 1890 Nebraska, Stevens and Smith Construction, The Complex, Warhorse Casino, and Riddles Jewelry. This is the Don't Punt Hour on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. Here is your host, Demorne Pierson-El.
All right, welcome back into the Dump Punt Hour. Host and on the ones and twos as always come through the weeknights. We got Demorne Pierson-El, the host, streaming in. If you guys want to join in, Starter Heeman text line still available to you guys. We got the Royals on, but like I said, use the streams. The show still go on regardless. With that being said, though, I did forget to mention this in the first segment, and I wanted to because it's basketball related. I'm just curious about your thoughts if this would ever cross over. The Philippines League, Pro League, they're adding the 4-point line at 27 feet out. The line currently sits at 23.
No.
I agree. Philippines, just to be aware, for everyone a little curious, Philippines has brought a bunch of interesting things. They have a quote unquote the last 2 minutes of a game. Any shot on a fast break is 3 points, regardless if it's a dunk or anything else. They also have a selection free throw where you can take a free 3-point shot as opposed to a couple of free throws. Philippines plays a little bit different, and the history behind it as well is it's trying to get people to stop playing 2-3 zone is why they're bringing out the 4-point line. So just some global news as we get closer to the 2024 Paris Olympics. But where I want to go with this segment, talk some college football, the Pac-2, no longer the Pac-12. There's only 2 of them left in there. You got Oregon State, Washington State. They've kind of been holding on for dear life, but they need to figure this out before we get to the 2024 season. Mountain West Conference seems to be the only thing open to them. How do you see this shaking out with Oregon State, Washington State, the only 2 members of the Pac-12, now the Pac-2 left?
It's kind of sad.
Yeah, it's really sad.
Because you don't know necessarily like what's their schedule for football. Like, is their schedule already released? Like, what things? So I feel for some of those kids just uncertainty with certain things. But there's one thing about business will get figured out regardless, even if it's at the last minute. So I'm pretty sure that they're talking about it or coming up with something. I mean, you have a whole AD department doing that. You have a whole school, that's backing that and whatnot. But it's just a sad thing because it's okay. You're waiting this long and nothing still hasn't, panned out. It's like, what are we doing? So hopefully they get things situated. Like I said, you hate to see that. I don't know, if they do have a schedule because they don't belong to a conference, or are they just playing whatever their schedule is and kind of just going independent, or will they not have patches on their jersey? Trying to figure out exactly. I mean, clearly they won't have Pac-12 or Pac-2 patches, so it's a whole lot of not known of what's going on, and that's the part that you hate to kind of see.
Yeah, so they got their schedule, and it looks like they're being pretty close on what they had. They're still kind of following that Pac-12, some non-con games in there. But yeah, they're in a tough situation because it's also, if you're the Mountain West, you kind of feel like, man, we just keep handing out lifelines to all of these programs that are just kind of losing their conference. It sucks because they're kind of the loyalists to the Pac-12, and now they're going to have to pay the price for it. As we kind of talking about, they're going to have to sign a deal here.
Are they going to lose? Are they going to lose money? Is it like TV deals? Like
that's the problem, right? Because they need to get out of this conference. Obviously, it's dead. There's only 2 of you left in there. Now you're in a situation where SEC is not going to take you. The Big Ten's not going to take you. The ACC, they're holding on for dear life. Maybe you try to get in there, but it's geographically, that seems like a tough sell as well, and that you probably wouldn't be able to.
I mean, with those 2 teams, say, they do go to the Mountain West, I mean, you honestly might be a stronger team, one of the stronger teams there. So regardless of what your schedule is, I mean, it is what it is. Your schedule won't change for probably this year and next year at least. You'll start to see, big changes with, the teams that left that Big 12 or the teams that left, to go to the SEC or to come to the Big 10. You'll start to see like about 2 years, their first 2 years, their schedules really start to change more so once they get, used to their conference. So, I mean, if you do go to the Mountain West, you're probably one of the stronger, better teams there. And that might help you with, rankings and everything like that. Who's to say that you might not, get one of the college playoff positions, depending on how strength of schedule it is and everything like that. So, I mean, is that really a bad thing? I don't think so.
Yeah, it's certainly, I think that is the right move. Try to get into the Mountain West. It's just hopefully they let you in. It's kind of, if we want to quote the SEC commissioner Sankey, they got their pie. How many more times do they want to cut it into slices? The slices keep getting smaller. Now, I will say with Oregon State, that's a good fan base. There's money there definitely to be had. Mm-hmm. Washington State, not so much. But with Oregon State, They got a good fan base. That's kind of a decent poll. You certainly can try to argue your case that way on the revenue you're going to bring. Because I definitely think if they're in the Mountain West, Oregon State, I think it's fair to say they're probably top 3, top 5 program in there at the very least.
Probably.
So that's another part of it where you can definitely add some power. There's a little bit of mixed feelings if you're kind of going on social media about the Mountain West and if they want to bring these teams in. But to me, it feels like that's where it's going to head.
If you do bring those teams in, might that push you over the edge for, more TV deals and whatnot? Because now they may be looking at you like, you're kind of a small conference with not too many, big schools. Like, yeah, you got known schools, but I mean, it's not the best of the best, but you got two, probably 2 Power 5, regardless of whatever it is. 2 Power 5 schools coming in, you might get a bigger piece of a TV deal just adding, those 2 schools.
Yeah, and that's the real tough part in all of this is you mentioned it's TV deals. Like all of this has to kind of be figured out based on what TV deals are available. And in this era that we're in now with ESPN, you can go to all of these. You can go to Temu if you really want to, Amazon Prime, Peacock. They're all over the place. And these businesses kind of have their contracts signed already. And anything more they sign on is just going to take away from the what they've already bought. Yeah. So if there's a slate where they can put it on after, but the problem is a lot of these games going to be kind of cross intersecting with each other. And depending on what your TV deals are, even if it's a better team that's going to add to the Mountain West Conference, does it interfere with your time slots already, making that TV deal just become, more of a problem than it would be a benefit? The only other option is the ACC, but the ACC is another problem. How long does the ACC last? Do you think this is a conference that can try to be one of the big 3, or does this one dissolve too? Because the ACC,
I don't think they dissolve. Like I said, you have a lot of pristine universities on the coast. So I feel like the only way that happens if kind of like your head guys like leave, like say Florida State and Clemson, they dip, or Florida State, Clemson, and UNC, like they gone. Like if those 3 leave, then like it might happen. But I just don't think that necessarily happens. Like I said, I think they try and renegotiate certain TV contracts, but there's enough. There's a lot of universities that have a lot of pull and high places that are on the East Coast. You got Boston College, you got Clemson, you got UNC, Syracuse. You got a lot of successful people in high places that didn't come from these colleges or whatnot. So you think that they not pulling favors to get things done or whatnot, regardless of how drastic it is. You think Florida State, are not pulling their strings off of the year that they just had, that are calling stuff. And like I said, I mean, is that really smart when, I mean, at least for the next 2 years, like, I don't necessarily see it happen because you have strong enough universities in the ACC, and you'll have probably a team or 2 that might be in the top, is it top 12 or top 8 this year?
12. Yep, 12.
Yeah, so you can have, your top 2 teams in the ACC probably in the playoffs, your championship and your runner-up team, as long as they handle business and do what they're supposed to. So I don't think, they'll get left out or whatnot. Now it just depends on how deep can these ACC teams run in the playoffs. That I'm not sure of.
And the other part of the ACC is they have a lot of great programs and history in there, but they're suing the ACC. The teams in the ACC are suing the ACC. In the ACC, I genuinely feel bad for it because it goes back to the TV deals. They got this. They almost took a ESPN friendly deal because they felt they're falling behind with college football revenue based on these TV deals. So they're like, we need to get with ESPN. Took a little bit of an ESPN friendly deal. And they're in the situation where it's clear that even though the ESPN is associated with the ACC, not their priority. SEC is their priority, and they made that pretty damn clear.
I mean, that's everybody. I mean, that's if you
but
got
to the point where SEC network, obviously it's a big thing. ACC network in the fine contract, they can't even have an ACC network because they're attached to ESPN. It's those limiting factors where I think they overlooked them.
Like I said, I mean, even people want peace. People want to make money. So even if it comes to the fact of, the ACC coming and kind of relinquishing a little bit of power or revisiting some things to where these universities feel happy or feel better about the situation, you think they're not going to do it? They seen what happened to the Pac-12. They don't want that. They don't want that to necessarily happen. But I mean, if you don't change or if you don't kind of give in a little bit to the people that's actually bringing you money, I mean, you could be out of business within the next 2 or 3 years. So, like I said, I think they're going to get it situated, and the ACC is going to have to bend with certain things to kind of accommodate these universities a little bit more because, they feel like they're getting left out. But especially with the powerhouses that you have still there. Like, you still have, high quality. You got a few, blue blood universities that are still there, or you got a few capable of playoff teams that, might make a run at some things. North Carolina has had some pretty good draft picks out of the past couple of years. So, I mean, Florida State has had the last decade of, some promising first-round draft picks, second-round draft picks. So, I mean, they got bargaining chips. It's just on how do they want to, come to the table and exactly say what.
Yep, and they got a chance here to keep them happy because it doesn't look like Clemson and Florida State are going to be able to leave. There was kind of that thing
right now this year.
Yeah, right now. So that's the thing. Like, it was close to where they were going to try to get out before this year even started. You got some time. Apparently, that loophole that they were going to try to get out of doesn't look like that's going to be a real possibility. So hopefully they got some time because personally, I'd hate to see for the ACC also to be going through tumultuous times and end up having them dissolve as well. With that being said, we're going to throw it to our last break here. To wrap things up, we're going to talk about this Chiefs dynasty. How real is it? How serious? How scared should the rest of the NFL be? Don't go anywhere. We'll keep it rolling on the Don't Punt Hour.
Mario fue pintor más de 30 años. Cuando me dijo que se le estaban olvidando las cosas, fue difícil. Un día me dijeron que pintara el marco del lado por dentro y pinté el lado de afuera.
Yo le diría a la gente que le diga a su familia lo que está pasando con él.
Si algo se nota diferente, podría ser Alzheimer. Es momento de hablarlo. Visita alz.org/nuestras historias para saber más. Un mensaje de the Alzheimer's Association y the Ad Council.
The Nebraska legislature will soon meet in special session and may consider a vote to raise consumer prices by imposing a sales tax on advertising. Nebraska's small businesses would be hit hardest, forcing them to raise prices, meaning we'd all pay more for the things we need. Contact your state senator and tell them no ad tax. Visit noadtaxnebraska.com to find your senator's contact information. That's noadtaxnebraska.com. A message from the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
Whether you like fishing together or fishing to get away, for the thrill of reeling in a big one, or just going out to have a good time, on the banks of your local pond, at a bend in a river, or on one of our many lakes and reservoirs, you'll always find the perfect place to cast a line, here, beneath Nebraska skies. Start planning your next fishing adventure today at letsfishnebraska.com. Sponsored by Nebraska Game and Parks, aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
Your child was embarrassed when you arrived at their basketball game. 75% of parents or guardians report current alcohol use. Drinking alcohol can cause harm to children and loved ones. By drinking less, your child will be excited to see you at their basketball game. If you or a loved one is looking for help, find a treatment facility near you at findtreatment.gov. For immediate support, call, text, or chat 988.
Brought to you by Nebraska DHHS in partnership with SAMHSA.
Victor deployed for the first time to Afghanistan in 2003. At 4 a.m, my phone rang. They said, "I regret to inform you that your husband was wounded in action." Victor sustained a moderate traumatic brain injury. I was doing school full-time, and I was also then caring for Victor. One of the most important elements of caregiving is taking care of yourself. I just didn't want to forget that I also had goals and that I also had a life. What I did is I challenged Victor to meet me halfway. There are almost 6 million military and veteran caregivers across the nation. We have our own journey, and we can fulfill that journey at the same time that we are helping our loved one.
Visit aarp.org/caregiving for a free military veterans guide to navigate your caregiving journey and better care for your loved one and yourself. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Are you a veteran looking for a new companion animal? A dog, a cat, or maybe something else? The Nebraska Department of Veterans Affairs Vets Get Pets program can cover up to $350 of your pet adoption fees. Visit veterans.nebraska.gov/vetsgetpets to learn more about program requirements and how to apply. Want to help support the program? Get your Vets Get Pets specialty license plates from the Nebraska DMV. Sponsored by the Nebraska Department of Veterans Affairs. Aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
This is area race announcer James Rowland. Join me and Bree Fansteel every Sunday night from 7 to 8 on 93.7 The Ticket for the Finish Line, where we cover all things motorsports from local racing to racing around the world. Every Sunday night from 7 to 8 on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
This is the Don't Punt Hour on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. Here is your host, Pierson-El.
All right, wrapping things up here. Final segment of the Don't Punt Hour. We're going to talk about the Chiefs dynasty. How long does this thing continue to last? Because it's fair to say it's certainly a dynasty at this point. 402-464-5685. You can always put in any last-second comments through there. But the morning
it is not a dynasty. It is not a dynasty. It is not. They're on the cusp of it. You know, they're approaching it. If they win this year, and if they probably win this year, I would probably say they can probably say it, but I don't think it's a dynasty. At
3 Super Bowls isn't a dynasty.
Say that again.
3 Super Bowls isn't a dynasty. Being in 4 of the last 5.
No.
Man, what makes a dynasty? I guess give me a dynasty.
One more. Like I said, it's not. They're approaching it. Like I said, it's not necessarily there yet. I think depending on how high the ceiling for Mahomes is, he doesn't. You know, he's done it different ways, which makes it annoying.
Yeah.
Absolutely. They have, you know, faster cars on the outside with him and Reed. That pairing, you know, has just been tough for a lot of people. I think there are a few teams that have their number. I don't think they just didn't have their best day when, you know, approaching them. Not to say that, you know, that the Chiefs were the better team that day. But depending on how fast or how strong that Patrick Mahomes continues his rise and ascension, I think is how far they'll go. Kind of, you know, what's next, or you know, what does he necessarily look like? Their offensive line, I wouldn't say isn't the strongest. You know, he's a bit unorthodox in his game with how he extends plays and does things and whatnot, which makes him, you know, a totally different type of weapon. So, I mean, you got to hope to contain them. Hopefully, like I said, I mean, they added 2 Ferraris on the outside. So, I mean, they're definitely going to be closer to when they had Sammy Watkins, Tariq. I think the average speed of their wide receiver room back then was like 4.3. So, they're a little bit, they're kind of, you know, back on that level. But, I mean, you have a rookie who we don't know what he's going to be like. You got Marquise Hollywood Brown. I mean, he's been a good receiver in the league for a long time. So, you know, hopefully he takes a different direction in his career coming with the Chiefs and whatnot. I mean, but they still have some things to prove. They're a very good team. They could go, you know, back to the Super Bowl and whatnot. You know, you just can't give them that much time.
I'm sorry. They still got some things to prove is what.
Yeah, they do.
Six AFC champs, 3 Super Bowls, 2-time MVP.
So okay, I mean, they're not the Patriots. They're not anything necessarily close to that. They don't.
Yeah. Okay.
They don't freakishly. I mean, that's all that's who they're chasing.
I think if you're going to put dynasties together, they're like the bottom. Like they're just breaking into entry level dynasty.
Did I just say they're not a dynasty? I said they're on the cusp of it. I'm not saying it. No.
I think they are. I think they just broke in. I think last year they broke in, and now it's a question of how long does this damn thing last. I think 74 wins total. I think their losses. I pull them up here. Yeah, only 22 losses, 74 wins.
They're dominant. They're a dominant team. Like I said, I don't think I think they've had success in a period of time. I think to get to a dynasty, you need a little bit longer. I'm not saying they're far off from it, but I'm not giving them that right at this moment. I still think you have to prove a little bit more. Like I said, you add another championship to that in the next year or two, or you add two championships to that, then it's like, all right, you can't deny it. But as of right now, like, yeah, you've been a good team in this run. Like I said, now you continue that for another 2 years and everything like that. You get to 2 more Super Bowls or a Super Bowl, you win a Super Bowl, one more Super Bowl, and you lose in the East. I mean, you lose in the AFC Finals after that or whatnot. Like, yeah, you can probably add that, but as of right now, I don't think so.
I can live with that answer. Longevity. You need more longevity out of it to make him a dynasty officially. We'll wrap up with that then. With the Chiefs, is anybody beating this team? Do they become the quote unquote?
Yes, the Raiders. They're going to beat them.
I think it's a great point to end on.
They're not unbeatable. Like, there's ways to get them flustered. I mean, I think teams last year, seen that. Like, there's ways that they're going to be, to beat them and whatnot. And what you have to have an elite front four that can get to Mahomes to where you muddy up the picture of what he has available to do. So I think if you kind of take the fight to them, I'm not saying that they're one to back down or whatnot, but if you take the fight to them, it is shown that that they are capable of losing.
Fair enough. I'm still picking the Chiefs, though. It's my clear favorite. Of course, NFL, anything can happen. But, man, you put Andy Reid, Mahomes together, I'm going to take a wild swing and say it does become the official dynasty this year. But we'll have to wait and find out. Football's right around the corner. Speed and Power's up next. Shout out to Morning Pierson-El. On time as always. We'll do it again tomorrow.